They are scattering around the world now. Some are in Sweden, some wandering around the edges of the Orient, some in Canada. And now, more army deserters than ever before are wandering through the United States. Add this to the casualty figures from Vietnam. Many young Americans are so sick of this squalid adventure that they would rather spend their lives in flight and in fear than in conventional comforts. Right now, some 23,000 American soldiers have been classified as deserters. That's more than a full division. The desertion rate is 3 times what it was during the Korean War and has tripled in the past 3 years. Some 56,600 deserted during the fiscal year which ended June 30th, and 10% of the 1.5 million men on active duty went AWOL. Each day, 500 soldiers, most of them based in the U.S., go over the hill. A lot of the deserters and AWOL soldiers come back, but the others are gone, moving around America, hiding out, worried about pursuit, assuming new identities, cutting themselves off from everything that made them in the first years of their lives. When they die, they will not be buried under their own names. It is a terrible thing to be young in a bad time. And why should we be surprised? The government of the United States seems to have decided that it has lost a generation. It promises not to respond to the 500,000 who assembled last weekend in Washington. And it must know that those people and the soldiers it conscripts to fight its wars are the same age. They have passed through the same things: rock music, pot, public violence, the promise of revolution. Richard Nixon can sit and watch football while the children are at his gates. Agnew can talk about separation of Americans he considers unfit. They won't be moved. They must really have decided that they can't afford to lose a generation of American citizens. One of the chants at the Justice Department last weekend was, "Free Kim Agnew." Agnew might not understand what the chant meant. I would bet that his young daughter does. What we are seeing in America now is not just the desertion of American soldiers, which is only a symptom of something larger, but the desertion of hundreds of thousands of young people from their own country. They have ventured to the interior and found it empty. Nixon and Agnew want them to honor the institution of the presidency. The young people see it only as an institution which has dishonored itself too many times to be thought about anymore as relevant. The presidency, to many young people, is an instrument which presides over farces like the Chicago conspiracy trial. It conjures dark visions of communists in places where the kids will not allow communists to function. It invades the Dominican Republic and drops bombs with icy indifference on the homes of Asian peasants. The presidency lectures endlessly about violence and uses violence to settle its foreign arguments. It talks about the need to speak softly and then writes speeches for Agnew. It uses the language of compassion and then spends $80 billion a year on guns while Bedford-Stuyvesant festers and rots. The best kids of this generation don't buy a lot of what passes officially for government in this country anymore. and that could be our most enduring tragedy. These young people are not traitors. They just believe that the basic principles of the country have been defiled. Nixon grew up sniffing out communists, but these people will not fold up the way the leftists of Nixon's generation folded up. The terrible thing is that we might never have anyone as good as them again in this century.